not change the name of my presentation. 5 minutes ago. Right, okay, so I'm Simon Jackson. I'm the UK ID and Xbox MVP and sturdy indie game developer. I like to use the word too loosely because I'm a sort of man of two hats. So by day, I'm this dark, lowly, technical person working for a healthcare software firm, locked away in a room, building healthcare software. Then by night, I don my cape. And I go out and I teach indies how to build games. And then forget to build my own. It's kind of really solid, but I will say first of all, I do not work for Microsoft. I do a lot of things with them. I also do a lot of things with other people, including Unity and other things. And I shall bring up this thing first. There are 2 prizes. 2 books. One on how to build Unity games. Now, one, it's not a beginner book, so you must at least know how to start Unity. And spell it, that helps, because, well, it's on the title, so you can do that. That'll help you build 2D games from your whole new 2D system that came with 4.6. And the next one, the one and only ever, the first and only ever UI book. Now, the one thing I will say about these books is that they're not a look and do. They're not going to say, right, here's a screen, click on this and you'll build it. These books are aimed to teach you. They'll teach you the fundamentals, they'll teach you what to put together, they'll teach you what things mean and why you should use them that way. And there's a big focus about architecture about building these things. And especially with the first book, it's about end to end. It's not just build a project, looks pretty. It's you build a project, this is how you put it together, this is how you monetize it, this is how you market it, and more importantly then, when you hit build, this is what I need to do afterwards to actually make it work on the platform, which really, really helps. A little bit. A lot of differences, but yes, there are 2 chances. First come, first serve. And you'll get, should we let them choose, Mitch? Should we let them choose, or should we just throw a book at people? Who can catch? No, still go check. There are two points in the thing. 2 quick Q&A sessions, so there are some audience participation. It won't involve a chicken dance, don't worry. But anyway, I do actually have my own studio, unfortunately. It's never made any money, it's never going to do anything. I keep doing things like this, and doing talks, and then spending a year and a half writing books. Go! That's the other way around, isn't it? Right, anyway, so, let us begin. No. I can't talk, but there's music. I had to put my geekdom in there in every single presentation. Well, that's basically this. This is all about, yes, we all know how to build projects and games. There are lots of different ways to do performance and things. But when you're starting out, when you need to prototype, or if you just want these small casual games, going down the whole heavy route just doesn't help. You need something quick, fast, and things, and just get it done, get it out, and try it. Now, first test, because we're going back to the dawn of time. Well, dawn of games anyway. And there were 2 first projects. Highlight of their day. Right, so first question is the fact that who can name the original names for both of these projects?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think you're the first hand up.
10 for 2
Yep.
and Space War.
Yes! The thing is, most people miss this and call it Pong, which is what also came after it. So you can win a book. So would you
I'll take the 2D games development book.
Good choice.
You know.
So someone still has a chance for UI. They'll teach you everything you need to know about UI. That's not in the documentation. That's okay. Where's Obi? I'm not going to slate it too much. Right. Okay. So in times of this, it's the fact that we want to build games. We need them to be fast. They need to be performant. They need to work and get as much juice and everything else out of the system itself as you can. So whether you work in the very low level, and I do know 1 or 2 people who still use machine code to write games. I wouldn't say they're sane, but they do like what they do. There's still a lot of people who work in assembly, work at a very low level and try and work on this platform themselves. Obviously, more people work at the C++ with DirectX and OpenGL. And it's great, you get the big, massive project at the end. There is the small little problem with it though. You're going to spend most of your life building that and tuning it and tweaking it and things, and it is a huge tangled mess by the end. And you're never really truly proud of what you've built. It's just you're proud of the game is shit. It is out there. There are people playing it. And then it crashes the console, and because there's some overwritten memory somewhere. So, the aim with managed development obviously is that we want the same thing, but we need to do it faster. We need to do it quicker and use more manageable process and things to actually get these things out there. And this is where managed code comes through. So, from very early days, I mean, I myself, I've done C++, I've done assembly and all those things. And then I was quietly just looking through some nice tutorial, and then there was some of this news. And Microsoft had out this nice managed DirectX framework. It's DirectX, but it's using C#. And the world sighed of relief. Like, oh, I can do this. So there, happy coding way. Now, 6 months later, and things not really moving on, there was then this other little announcement that came along. I would take the world by storm. That became XNA. And you would not believe how long it took me to find that one logo. The very first initial Microsoft NA logo, it was very fine, and it's gone through several generations. But it was so relief because the fact that it actually became a lot more than its humble beginnings. It wasn't just about writing code. This all became about actually building a project, building a platform, and pushing it forward with a few extra little things at the end. So what did XNA ever really do for us? So first and foremost, it was managed code, and yes, VB. For anyone who likes Visual Basic, you could do VB. We had garbage collections. We didn't have to actually worry about all the memory management side, and pointers and hashes, and yeah. It was much simpler code. You could architect your project in much more richer fashion, and that's how it worked. And then came the little sweet spot. That wasn't there at the beginning. Where you could do it to the PC, and you could do it to the Xbox. Anyone with an Xbox willing to part with $100 could deploy to their own Xbox. Yes. And if you could find 10 or so friends, you could even get it onto the retail Xbox. So everyone could find, well, everyone could try and find it, but you could find it. And obviously, as anyone knows who's worked with XNA, the very initial editions were not very distant. But Microsoft did work on the problem eventually, and even today now, all the products and all the platforms on the Xbox itself, XNA and Indie is still there at the forefront. It's still good to 360, go to the games, and there's the Indie channel. That's all XNA, still. And there are still people doing that. And in 2011, that was making a net profit of about 11 million turnover every year. Last year it was about 13 million. So there's still people building and selling for it.
That's incredible, because we can't get our money back from XNA contracts.
It is unfortunately, well, there's no different to any other platform itself. The fact that there was the 20%, we're making 80% of the money. So I'm guessing all the, I know that Fortress Craft who was on there, they're making still a lot of money. Because it's Mac, and it's on the and it's on there. Now, that's all well and true, good. We can build code and games and deploy. But XNA also brought the content pipeline, which for love it and hate it, I'm in the loop, is the fact that it made a great way of actually managing your content and assets and getting it onto your project and onto your platform fast and easy. You didn't handle the fact that I have custom content and tweak things and put them forwards and going along. So I had a whole input process to say, right, here's my asset, this is how you get it into a game. A lot of processing is you can say, right, well, now you've got it into my game, do more with it. So I can make more, like if I've got levels and things like that, right, well, pull off all these assets and things, these are the textures for that level, mash them together, that's my level later. So when I get to the game, I just go draw a level. And then there's the consumption part where loading into it basically became one line of code for almost any asset. One line of code to import any content, which was big. But we come to today. Where is XNA today? And this is the slide that Microsoft did not want me to show. I was tempted to analyse. Now, it is fine to point out, it's built the roses, but XNA is still not dead. There are still developers out there building things with XNA. They're still trying to get them through content submission, because obviously, because it's a peer review system, there's a lot fewer developers out there. Still like to do it, and we'll still win the $100 to actually go and be on the store. But those that do are still making money when they can. But the dream is reborn. Oh hell! Right, So yes, so today we have Monogame, which is sort of the spiritual successor to XNA itself. It takes all the dreams and ideals that was XNA, but then goes further. Because the fact that with Monogame, one of the big things they didn't want to do is be locked into the same storehouse. So you only had PC, you only had phone, you only had Xbox. That wasn't enough for the Monogame people. They wanted the dream of true multi-platform. I want to write my code once, put it everywhere. Now, Monogame started back in 2009 by a nice guy named Jose, and he built the framework. Granted, it was targeting iOS, so he wanted to write XNA games for iOS, and that was it. There was a bit of umming around, and then by 2011, the team had grown, and they'd opened up the framework support. So they had OpenGL support, Android, Mac, Linux, and why is iOS? Oh, iOS is on Linux, it's on the first one. So we had 5 platforms, and all was good. And then the team grew again, and so some big game people said, well, that's all well and good, but this support is a bit rubbish, and it's only OpenGL, and for a lot of people, OpenGL's fine, and some people don't, they like DirectX. So then, within a year, it rapidly expanded and supported DirectX on Windows, Windows 8, and Windows Phone. But they didn't stop there, because they had to move on. And now, today, is the fact that there's about 12, 13 different platforms that Monogame support, and they're still not stopping there. They're still going on, they're still going further and going on themselves. Now this slide, I'll come back to this later in my last slide, because this one's rather important when you come to field. Yeah. But even Raspberry Pi, the UI is quite good, although granted the marketplace a bit, but it is incredibly easy to get into these platforms, almost in the likes of Unity, where it's not quite as slick to target build, there is a bit of work to do, but it's simply far simpler than most of the ways you can actually do it there. And there is even, yes, although last week I came across a project called XNA.js, which was an ASM.js based version of XNA, or actually based on Monogame. So you can even deploy XNA to the web eventually. It's a university student who's doing it at the moment, he's not willing to share his code, he's very protective of it, he's holding it, locking in his safe as well. Look at this demo, don't look at the code. So, as it stands today, the fact that Monogame is in version 3.2. It's important to point this out because by this time now, we're still beholden to XNA. You still need a Windows machine, you still need XNA to build predominantly the content and get your project running, which is a big limitation the team is working very hard to work across. Now I was hoping to get them to make this announcement for now, but unfortunately it's all contributor time. And they're launching very soon in the future, not been saying that for the last few weeks, but very soon in the future we're launching the new Monogame. Now, the reason this is new is the fact that it's completely broken the shackles of what was the old Monogame, which ties to XNA. I'll come back more to this later, but basically, Monogame now no longer requires XNA. And also, more importantly, if you want to build on a Mac, you can, with no ties to Windows. I do seem to see a lot of Mac using here today. Hands up, who've got a Mac? Yeah. You're going to hate this slide. So obviously, we started with Mac build, and I found the picture of the most advanced Mac I could find. I'm not a Mac person myself, so you can tell me how accurate this is. So we can build on a Mac. As far as I've been told, we haven't moved beyond this. It's still futuristic technology, apparently. Is that correct? Anyone still got one of these? Okay, and obviously from there it's expanding and supported across all the different platforms and deployed. So we can build and deploy to almost any of these platforms. There are also consoles, but for legal reasons I can't show those. Except, oh yeah, is that technically a console? Yes. Technically. There is console support for Monogame. You can still talk to one of the big platform holders and get it on. Various different reasons why there's not on there, but I'd love to show more. So, but when it comes to development, obviously, these are the 3 main things people working on. Obviously, Linux. I used to be a Linux fan. I then realised I like GUI too much, so I stopped doing Linux. But, as I said, when it came to the old Monogame, all you had was Windows. You could write code on your Linux and your Mac, but you couldn't compile it. Or you could compile it, but you couldn't ship it. If you couldn't ship it, you had problems because all the content had to be done on Windows because Microsoft only ever made XNA for Windows. And we required the Windows compiler for building content. But as I said, things are changing. With the new monogame, there's a new big content process pipeline. And with this, it means the fact that it's now broken the old shackles and we can build on anything and deploy to anything. So sort of widen the acceptance of what they can actually do on this. So, the content pipeline. Now, in Windows days, this case was all Windows, isn't it? But first, and to harken to that, we have this nice little command line tool, which will you tell you where your content is, go away, build it. Yes! I hate this. I'm not a command line person. I use Git through a GUI. So, with much harassment, there is also a GUI. And this very much harkens back to the old XNA days, the fact that when you're building your content, all you simply do is tell it what your content is, tell it how you're going to process it, hit build. And that's one way. So you can build all your content, and that's ready. Now, with the old XNA, you then had to take all what these things did and copy it into your project and manage it forward. And that was a real pain. No one liked it. So now with the new content pipeline, like the old XNA, is the fact that it's one file, one config file, you attach to your project, and that's all your content. And then this will all happen in the background while your project's being built. It makes life a little bit easier. Now, for getting started, fairly easy. You go to the website, and you download the installer. You create a new project. Okay, your developers you already know how to build a new project, so it should be fairly easy. There are a load of templates on most of the platforms. If you're building on Windows, you'll want the likes of for targeting iOS and Android, or OU. You're also going to need Xamarin to be able to build on Windows, or you're going to switch to Mac, or you're going to switch to Linux to be able to build for those platforms. Granted, yes, you can still only build for iOS on Mac. It's the only platform you have to build on a Mac. Thank you, Apple. Good. We also have now, thanks to a few people, well, one, monogame is also available on NuGet, which will come in a bit. You simply then create your content project, which is a simple text file. Can't get much simpler than that. Code it, build it, deploy it, you're done. And we'll try and show some of that this in a bit. So when you come to NuGet now, as of soon, when 3 lives out, but these are available now. Who knows about NuGet? That's a shocking amount of few people. Right, find your phone, search for NuGet. Right. NuGet effectively is it's a dependency discovering tool, or is also used for keeping track of things that you kept from the web. You basically, like you do a file, new project, add a reference. You're taking your project from the web, and that project itself is linked back to the original source project. When they update, it tells you. When there's a new version, you can just go update, and that's it. All you have to do. No compiling, no have to figure out all the third-party dependencies, all these things. Everything is included. This is the same with monogame. So everything you need to use monogame for Android is in the monogame NuGet. That's all you do. Just simply install it. For Windows, you can use Xamarin. But if you're going to do it for Windows, ignore that one for a minute. Oh, the rest, right. Now come to the second challenge. Now it's an observation one. Who can spot the obvious error that the Muppets who created this made?
Got an actual question or not?
Go right to the back.
So there's Windows 8, you forgot the F in the framework.
And what do we say when there's no F? No, there's no F in Windows 8, but there we go. Right. You want to get your book later, or do you want to get it?
I'll get it later.
Okay, get it later, right. See if you can guess who the Muppet was who did this. He's not very far away. Because I've been provisioning for getting NuGet support, because one of the big issues we had in monogame is that everyone kept thinking it was dead. XNA was dead, monogame must be dead. There's no updates, there's no releases. So one of the big things we're trying to do is the fact that during a faster development cycle, not quite as fast as Unity, Josh, but more regular builds themselves for the actual full templates and things, but also more importantly, we're automating the production of these NuGets, because at the moment it's been me, when I've got time and I'm not doing things and just download the code and can recompile it. You will not believe how long it takes to test all of this. I have to test every single one of these. Every single time I do it. And this height was every 2 weeks, usually go about a month, 2-ish. And go on the other board. So, now for any good framework to be successful, it's that one of the monogame things had is that it didn't really have any good reference examples themselves. They tried copying all the XNA samples. They're all itsy bitsy. They didn't really help you to build something or what to do. So what we have, and what one avid programmer went and did, went to actually build an entire solution. But this is with the hand of the monogame team themselves. We built one big reference project, and this is basically individual samples that are compiled to build across every single platform that monogame supports, with a focus on the fact that they're quality samples and they will always run. Every single build, no matter what, we test monogame against these to ensure what you get works. We make sure that they cover all platforms. There will be a few exceptions because, unfortunately, on PlayStation Mobile, 3D and shaders are a bit of a funny thing. That's mostly because they also use best practice in the fact that you use shared codes. The idea is the fact that you're writing the code once, you're going to understand how that code works on all the platforms, so that you're making a good separation from what's on here. So everything you see in here, this folder here, is all from one place in every single project. I shall show you a little bit. And also the fact that one good feature of the actual content pipeline is if you want, you have one content project for all of your solutions. And this will go away and it will compile and build your content for that target platform at build time. You do nothing. In the old days, what you had to do is you had to open up the content project and then build it 7 times for all the different platforms. It was a pain in the backside. So now it does it all for you. You can still, if you want, have separate content projects for separate projects, first platforms, and then it will still go away and build it. So you can have your large assets for your really large screens, and then have a smaller content project for your smaller content screens, and it will just magically just do it. And then this is it. There's your content project now. You can double click it, you can open up the editor, you can look at it, play around, tweak with things. At the end of the day, that's it. One reference, and it builds. All happening in the background. Until it doesn't, well then you have to go find out why, because you've just renamed one of your assets, or you've broken it in some ways. Git never breaks files, does it? Especially assets and content. Now another thing that I've been a big proponent of is PCL. Who knows what PCLs are, or portable class libraries? And there is one hand. Okay, so portable class libraries is the fact that in the end days, even with the shared code, okay, so I've got a file and I've got the same reference in all of my projects all put across. Fine. What happens when I want to add another file? I then have to go back and add that to all my other projects again. If I then have this file and I've got lots of lovely code in it and I build it from Windows, it's all working, it's fine. I go build for AS and it crashes and dies. I go, right. I'll edit the class, it'll be fine, I change it. I then go back and build Windows, and Windows just doesn't want to privately it all up because it's completely different. So then you start having to have compiler definitions and the hash ifs everywhere through your code to say, right, if it's Windows then do this, if it's iOS do this. Okay, now multiply that by how many other platforms you want to put in your project and all the different variants that are in there. The monogame saves you from some of that, but not all. Because like with Unity, there are platform distinctions between them that are unique to those platforms. So this is where PCLs come in. Is the fact that I've got all my code in one single project. In that, I've said to this project, right, you are going to let me only code for Windows, for iOS, for Windows Phone, for Xamarin.iOS, it's updated, thank you Xamarin, and anything else. I'm going to target a lot of platforms, and this will guarantee that anything I write in here will work 100% on every single one of those platforms. I don't even have to think about it. It will just work. When you actually compile the portable class library to the platform, it compiles it for that platform in a similar way to the content platform works, but more codified. When it gets down to the intermediate language, anyone can say what intermediate language is? No, one coder or two coders in the room. Yeah. The raw stuff it gets when it's shoved it out to the platform initially. So anything I write in here is the only thing I ever have to write and worry about is what I put on my actual platform. And that is unique to my platform. I don't have to mess around, it will just work. So if I'm working with accelerometer, the implementation is different on Windows as it is on Linux, and so on and so forth. If you're going to do, as you should always do with any platform, you're having the unique selling features or the unique points in each of the platform. So with Windows 8, you've got your charms and you've got your sharing things. With Windows Phone, you've got your tiles, no, your light tiles, no, shut up. And then also your different asset, there are different ways you're going to talk to your advertising or your connections to some back-end game server, because you find one service only supports iOS and Android, and another one supports Windows and a load of other ones, and you end up mixing between. So you keep everything that's all independent to do with the platform in the project itself, so it doesn't affect anything else. And anything in here, it's unique. I don't point to explain what bait switch is then. There's only 2 programmers in the room. 3. Right. Who actually wants to see a code demo? Go on to it. Oh, go on, that's enough. Right. Okay, so. Right, so I've actually got a new version of Monogame on here. There's Monogame. Oh, no, it's not. Okay. There's Monogame. Yes, okay, right, so file new project, there's all the projects. And then all the platforms, I'm running Xamarin, so I've got also iOS and Android. I can build for iOS on Windows. I can't deploy iOS on Windows. You need a Mac. Again. So I can pick any one of these. Just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to go for a Windows. Oh, just Windows, just because I'm on a Windows machine, it's just easier. I go off and build. Now, if any XNA guys can spot the difference when I hit run. So this is it. I've got a nice project, and that's it. In there, all the references are in there that I initially need. If I wanted to do update to a later version of Monogame, I can simply go to Manage NuGet. I search for Monogame. And I find nothing. Why am I finding nothing? Well, that's because I'm searching for what's already installed. Let's try again. Mongo game. Oh, this is going to be one of those demos. I'm going to sacrifice the shit to this demo god today.
Don't try this at home, kids.
And there's Monogame, and again, as I showed before, there's all Monogame on that. So I go off, I can pick up the platform, and then that will replace all the references with whatever the latest thing is. And I say these will refresh on a much more frequent basis. So if you have an issue or bug that needs to be fixed and you need it now, and you can't wait, you can always grab it. He says. So if I go and run this, so who's ever looked at XNA or Monogame code before? No, count. Oh, that's better. But you don't know what NuGet is. Okay. Alright, so yes, in Monogame it's very simple. Unlike Unity in a few things, this is a programmer-heavy way of doing things. So you have your game loop down here, which is a nice little. What's suspending? I'm looking at the apps now class. Game class. Where's game? There. Okay, there's my game. There's the start of my game. So I've got a new game. I have some graphics. Very nice. Graphics are good. Games, yes. And then we go down and we load our content. Whereas that's not content, that's something else. I'll show you content in a minute. And then we go down, and then basically there's our game loop. So here's where we update. This is where we do logic and thinking and AI and scripting and processing and everything else. And then we've got the drill. A few curious eyes looking at the drill cycle. Now if we run this, in good old XNA days, we had what was called Cornflower Blue, which is how we start. But this is Monogame. Did that tweak just recently. So now when we start that, and get a nice blank screen, you can go off and do what you like. I'll draw some content, but I'm lazy today. Better to show you different projects. So we'll switch over. So that's a basic Monogame project, and that's how easy it is to get wrong. File new, start, go, possibly start putting things in. In then, you simply add in your content, nothing else. Now this is the portable class library. This is one of the, I've actually converted one of our samples over to a portable class library. This took me a whole of 5 minutes to convert to in a PCL. So instead of having, open up the Android solution, open up the Windows solution, this solution, that solution, and build them and test them, I have one, and I can simply say, right click, select the new platform, off you go. So if I can go on here, and we can see now, no prize I'm afraid, but you can have a test to see if you can guess the name of this project. It's a very familiar XNA project that we got running here. Old logo, I know, I'm not changing it yet. No sound. There is sound, I'm not going to play it. And there it is, it's a simple platform project, and this is one of the core samples we have from the Monogame project. And this works completely on every single platform. There is sound, there are textures, there's animation, a whole load of stuff in there. No AI, well actually there is some AI, I'll tell a lie, there is some AI. Is it AI? Can you call it AI? Can you call monsters who simply walk around and kill you AI? I'm just going to jump here.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, good. We have AI in it as well. There we go, look, good. Nice little zombies walking around. If I run in him, he will carve me a new one and I will die. No jumping around and saying, yes! So, stop like that. I'll show you briefly then. If I look at the Windows, if I look at my Windows 8 project itself, there's nothing in here. I have my game, that's it. One game class, and that's it. And that's all there is in my platform project. From there, I will then go and add on things like all these unique features for each platform, whether it's speech integration, whether it's tiles or hub notifications or other notification things like that. If there's some weird and wacky Gear VR device I want to throw into this, yeah, you're going to do it on that as well. Loading content is not in here. So it's on the platform. Go down here, go up this here. There's my platform, which is, I think, what I'm doing. Right, so here we are. Loading content in Monogame is as simple as I said as one line. So there you go, I'm going to load in a nice texture into it, and that's my texture in the game done. Easy. Right, okay. Just slides. This. Oh, my screen's all the way over here. My deck. Where are you hiding, deck? There we are. No hands, just deck. Yeah, okay, it's a cheap shot, there we go. Right, okay. So where do we find out more? So obviously, monogame.net is the big single place for anything to do with Monogame. There is also a nice big, yes, I'm using the word, oh, you only left me one quote of Microsoft left, haven't you? Used it. Right, okay. The Microsoft Virtual Academy, which I'd highly recommend anyone to go and look at, is a huge raft of learning content, arguably about anything Microsoft, but they do more. There are iOS tutorials on there for using all the cloud service and things like that. And also, more importantly, is that two of them are on a game team, one of which was a former XNA team member, so Mr. Andy Don, and Tom Spilm is sort of the de facto-ish head of Monogame at the moment. They went ahead and they did an entire presentation on everything you want to know about Monogame and building Monogame. So if you're interested, watch that. It's about 8 hours. They did it live, and there's one bug in it, which we still haven't fixed. Yeah. There is my blog, and also more importantly is that one thing I will highlight is this link here. This is a link I keep regularly up to date. There is also one for Unity, and basically this has every single link and thing I've created over my last 10 years of searching off good things on the web. Everything on there I've tested and used. There's a lot on there, including a lot of books and things. Books? Actually, no, no one's new. And also you can go and find Monogame from the back, you can't find it. Just lift the screen. Try. There's also the GitHub project for Monogame itself, and from there you can find the links to the samples and all the other things on there. Now, Monogame isn't the only managed language framework out there. So obviously we have the things, so Unity, I won't say direct competitors, they have different needs, different ways, different teams of people actually looking for it. So Unity is the first class managed project development environment, so we can do C# or JavaScript. Calling JavaScript to managed language is like, I'm trying to think of good, yeah, I don't know. Or you've got the, it might find it obvious to actually say Unreal Engine here and a managed language tool, because obviously Unreal, behind the scenes, is C++. However, there was recently released a mono version of that could plug in to Unreal, and so you could use C# with Unreal. Still experimental, still sort of gets on there, sort of freebie. Right. I have to take a breath for this next slide, because this is a slide that was recently announced around GDC. He's not in the room. Right, okay, now one thing was said, there was a big post recently on the Windows blog around the whole Windows 10 announcements. Everyone's going on about Windows 10, so I had to put something about Windows 10 in here. Now, what I will call, there's not much I can say about this because they still haven't released all the information about it, and I would be shot before leaving the room if I tried. But what I will say is that read that post. It's not hard to find. You simply go to the Microsoft blog and you'll simply post, and take a look at this image itself. Now, one thing you know is the fact that the whole Windows 1 platform is the fact that this is talking about universal apps built on one devices. Now, this is similar to the way PCO works. Is you build one project, you have one shared code file in there, which has all the code for your projects. And then you have the platform variances for each of these. Now you will note the fact that universal apps will undoubtedly cover every single one of these platforms. So you'll be able to build for all those platforms. Please don't ask me too much about that, I'll say what I can. Now, what is the subtle part of this is, I will call attention is to these things underneath. Now these are services that are available to all universal apps. That includes one SDK, I won't say too much, all the different adaptive views inputs, more importantly also pushing the one store. There's one store for all devices. Microsoft's been tirelessly trying to move towards this world where we have one store for every single one of these platforms. Yes, there will be one store for HoloLens, and for Xbox and Surface Hub, sorry. Your big, who can afford a big 42-inch screen with a £2 worth of computer in it? Which will probably cost 50 times more, but I can't say. And mobile, and even IoT devices themselves. Also, they're going to be curated, they're going to be content focused towards them. But it's a case of all of them will be available on all of them in different ways and different shapes. And let's not say it's complete free fall, because obviously there is still a content curation on the site. There's still to make sure the fact that you're not trying to put junk up there. Not to say things don't get on there, but they get taken down very quickly and it's very managed. Yes, so I'd say read carefully what that says on there. That's about as far as I can say. Right. Questions. Let me have a drink. We pass around the mic, or we're just going to...
Sorry.
Might be easy. I can talk loudly, so...
Okay, sure, right. So
Right loud! Hear me roar!
So yeah, I know there's a lot of things you can't talk about with that last
Okay,
picture.
Tim, we're going to go back to the slide, there we go.
Yeah, but
Yes.
one of the things you did feel able to say was that each of these platforms would have a store. Does this mean that it will no longer be possible to deploy to PC without going through the store?
No, you can still... No, okay. That position doesn't change. That is there today at the moment. You can install desktop apps, and yes, desktop apps will still be on that one store. That part isn't changing. So you can either just get your CD-ROM, put it in the drive, install it, exactly the same file. They're not taking it. Microsoft have a very thing why they don't take things away. This is unfortunately why Windows is this big. Because it has 10 years of coding still. Windows 10 still will have to run VB6 apps. And that annoys me immensely, not only the fact that people are still building VB6 apps and maintaining them and think it's a good idea, but yes, Windows still has to run. This is what other platforms don't have the hindrance from. So the likes of Apple, the likes of Google, although Google's getting a bit of this now, is they don't have to cope with the whole backstory. Where Windows has this solid promise that whatever you have today will run tomorrow in some fashion. Not to say you won't have something to do, but no. You will still be able to run physical media or download products or things, or install your Steam onto the Windows desktop, or one more like that, and still run on your PC. Yep.
Any other questions?
I was just wondering, how's the Minor Develop project funded in terms of longevity for the project? You know, if people are devoting their time to it for free, then how are we expecting this to go forward?
Monogame, okay, so there are contributions to Monogame. We've had about between $5,000 and $10,000 of contributions over the time. There was even some recently where Indians are being thought I've made money off you, I contributed back. But basically, Monogame is backed, not financially. Clear. There's no money involved, but it's backed by Microsoft, it's backed by Xamarin, and it's backed by a whole huge collaborative team of successful studios who are working off this. Tom Spillman, who's one of the lead coders on that, is part of Sickhead, is one of the lead programmers for Sickhead Games. They brought out a great little game called Armed, which became one of the Windows showcase apps, which I'd recommend playing because it's a very good. I like strategy games. It's a very good strategy game, and they all donate a portion of the time to the continuation of the project. It's in some ways why people are saying there's not many updates, there's nothing going on. That's because Monogame is built by the community. If you've got an idea, you've got something that can add to Monogame, I recommend going to the GitHub page and submitting a change with that in it. And people are doing that every single day. There are now, it differs from week to week. They can have anywhere from 50 to 70 actual new requests for stuff for guys to go to put into the project. And the team rapidly go through those and accept the ones that are good. They will burn you alive if you suggest something bad. They only have a limited amount of time for the people who manage the project themselves. So it's a case of you must take professionalism what you actually submit to them. Don't try and put something dodgy. There have been one or two instances. They didn't survive. I think the graves are buried. The graves are somewhere. But no, it is a huge community effort. So where they accept money, and that money goes towards things like either getting licenses or more merchandising or raising awareness or supporting public events. Most of that goes to supporting the project, none of it goes to the people. So no one gets paid to do that. They all have their day jobs and they all contribute the time. As it stands, I think there's about 4 members who work for Xamarin. There are 2 independent studios and 1 freelancer who's part of the core team. And then there's likes of me and about 50 others who are actually active community contributors. And we're all pushing to make it a success because the reason I do it is that I loved X&A. At the end of the day, X&A was a perfect platform for building games fast. There's no, even in Unity, I can't build things as fast as I can in Unity as I can in X&A because I have complete control over what I build. Every line of code that goes into that project is my own to build and build a game. Whereas everything else, and also all the skills I learned from that, I can easily take if I wanted to go and work for a big game studio. They're instantly transportable because it's the same ideas, same patterns of doing those things. I won't say anything bad against Unity, honestly. But Unity is good because when you build games for Unity, you're building for Unity. You can't easily transfer that knowledge onto other products and platforms. Okay?
Cheers.
Anyone else?
Hide that again.
I'm just wondering about the business case for the game.
Yeah.
I did the same thing as you did. I think we went to a thing once where we might have made the same.
Well, I did help to run a user group
yeah.
in Lichfield, Midlands.
Well, so I kind of started out with X-Name and that kind
Yeah.
of thing, and it was basically a nice abstract wrapper over D3D for a while.
Yep.
And then you kind of move on from there. But I can't help but think that maybe a new indie coming into the scene now, diving into something like Monogame might not be a great investment.
It's horses for courses, really. The comparison I make is that if you're a coder and you love code, then Monogame is one of the easiest ways to take it. Because you understand code, you want to build code itself and move forward.
But as a programmer, I've worked out
Yep.
that the worst thing is, of course, that we just work on code. And we never actually get a game out, just like you said, with kind of like your thing right at the beginning, where you never actually make a game. And having worked with people that actually do want to make games,
Yep.
I think diving into Monogame would probably be a mistake for them.
No.
And just and they're a programmer as well, but
Well,
they prefer it sort of quicker to come into the Unity. So I don't know, it's just
Oh no,
a
yeah,
personal
no.
preference. But
It's a perfect observation, and it clearly comes down to there is no one framework that will solve or rule them all. There is no Mordor in the land of game development. Everyone has their own different ways of doing things. So there are people I know I talk to who hate Unity and will only go with Unreal. There are people I know who love Monogame and would never go anything near, had a GUI and had to change things. I mean, saying that, on Monogame now, I know of at least 10 frameworks that are built on top of Monogame. There's some by name Game Engine, which is still quiet, but it's still actively developed on top of Monogame and everything else. And it comes down to what is your personal preference. There's no magic bullet to succeed, because at the end of the day, as all the other speaks and talks have gone through, you need a winning game, you need a winning plan. All the frameworks and everything else behind it will work for almost all of these different platforms and how you do it. And it's down to your personal preference of what you feel most comfortable to succeed. Put it this way, I write Unity books. But that's only because I'm a global evangelist when it comes to game development. I dabble and tinker with everything except JavaScript. I hate JavaScript. I'll come to it one day when I'm not today. So I do Unity, I do Unreal, I do Monogame, I actively contribute to Monogame all the time, and about a handful of other different frameworks and things. And I speak confidently about what those things are, what each platform or product brings to the table and what can help leverage you to, at the end of the day, build great games. Because with all of them, at the end of the day, you've still got the platforms to deal with and how they ship and deal, and that will never change. No one will ever really make that any easy for you. Anyone who deals with app provisioning will tell you nothing will ever make that job easy. But in all these frameworks, they all get to the point of, here's my game, here's the fastest way to go. Now, as I said in the very beginning, yes, you can build games from this, but you might just want to use it for prototyping. Prototyping in XMA is extremely fast. Granted, if you know Unity, doing it in Unity is fast. It's just what you're comfortable with. One of the big, I suppose, Microsoft says that is, code and do with what you're comfortable with and go with there. No one's going to force you to go with. There's all this varied choice. No one's going to tell you which bank to go with except this one, which is like a really low interest rate, so your mortgage is cheap. But at the end of the day is you go with what's comfortable with and what's comfortable to you. So, for instance, HTML developers will stick with HTML. People who deal with GUIs and big fan things, they're going to go with Unity or Unreal. If you're a true coder, then you're likely to start with Monogame, and then basically, once you've got your prototype, you take that to showcase and you build off, you might then decide, right, fine, that's my prototype, I'm going to go and build it in Unity. There is no one answer, there's no one silver bullet that's going to solve it all. The fact is, Monogame, there are many great studios and products that are actually building stuff with Monogame and shipping it. And also, they are having some of the faster go-to-market for the other platforms going straight across and going forward. There are Monogame things on PlayStation, there's Monogame stuff. I can't say that. I nearly did, I stopped myself. On all the other platforms I was going through, and generally it's a case of it's very easy. So, go with what you're comfortable with at the end of the day. Anything else? No, I think we're out of time.